what you're using. Is it business canvas?
Yeah, it's the business model canvas. Yeah.
Okay. I think somewhere in this business model canvas, you're going to have you have somewhere a box called value proposition. Have you heard of value proposition already? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. So the value proposition is like, I mean, just first saying what is the what is your pitch about? What is the thing you are presenting and why is it important? And then also why people should buy it in a way, or why people should feel engaged about your problem. So that's one thing you want to think of when one key things you want to deliver in your pitch is this value proposition. Explain it is as clearly as possible. If you are in impact business, so social impact or environmental impact, I think you can rephrase that as what is the problem you want to address and why is it so important to solve this problem. Okay, so once you have that, actually people then they can feel engaged, or maybe some them they might be not interested, but actually at least they feel engaged and they feel, oh, this is an important thing, we want to participate maybe. But at least even if they don't want to participate, they will be attracted because they will see that as a as a relevant problem. So you have to, when you make your pitch, you have to coin really very clearly your value proposition, what you are offering and what kind of problem it is. Is it solving? So, and I think one more thing you want to say very clearly in your pitch is what do we need to do? Why do we need to do something about the problem? So if there's it's important to solve, but also why do we need to take action? Sometimes there are some problems that are important, but we cannot. There's no specific reason to take action. So you want really to say, why is it so important to take action? Is it and then I want to say one more point, which is probably a point that that Aphrodite should actually deliver because of her Greek's roots. Is there's a famous, no, I have a blank, but a famous philosopher, Greek philosopher, Aphrodite. I will need you. Is it Aristotle who was talking about
Logos, Ethos, Pathos?
Exactly. He wrote a book called Rhetoric. And in your presentation, it's always important to have three things that Aphrodite talked about: logos, ethos, and pathos. Logos is the logic, so you have to make sure that your presentation is coming in a logical way, that actually people can follow the steps of your thought about you, and it should proceed from logic. So that's a very important part, that you really want to organize your pitch in a way that from one slide to another or from one point to another, it should be actually connected. It should also go from where is the problem and to actually what you are delivering as a solution, and it should actually align with maybe what you were proceeding to solve this, or to make a proposition to solve this problem. Ethos is very important. It's let's say it's credibility. It's actually what does it make, and it's part of building trust. Is what can you deliver as information that would convince the audience that you are really the person to solve this problem, or to address, or to conduct a project to solve a problem like this. So that's here where you have to show your credentials, to be proud of yourself, not oversell, but not undersell yourself. So it can be also, I mean, it's not something personal. It can be personal. It can be as a group. You can say, oh, we as a group of 5 or 6 persons, we actually perfectly complementary to solve specifically this problem, especially in open innovation. What you want to show is that there's a reason why you got together on one challenge and wanted to address this challenge, and it makes sense for one reason. Maybe it can be a cultural reason. Maybe someone in the group has been, deeply touched by the problem. I don't know what it is. I mean, we are talking about connecting about urban development problems here. So it can be someone who actually suffered some issues related to urban development. It can be someone who is an engineer and has some technical capabilities, can can technically solve the problem. It can be someone with some, I don't know, communication skills that are specifically important, or software development skills, and so on and so forth, design skills. So it's up to you to actually, I mean, don't worry if there's some skills that are missing, but just show that actually your group is self-contained, makes sense all together to solve this problem. And at the stage of your pitch for tomorrow, it's very obvious that you won't have a full-fledged team, because it comes, I mean, open innovation is this way, that you're always missing some resources, but just show that you actually, you came up to make good connection among your group, and that your group as a whole is also going to be as a chance to just to go forward, to be sustainable on the long term, to be lasting. That's very important. If someone during the pitch says, no, actually, I'm just presenting this project, but I don't care. I mean, you can imagine that your pitch is actually, you're just losing momentum. People are not going to bet on you. But if you say, yes, we are just super motivated to continue because our group, we have been going along together very well, this is something that makes a difference. So individual skills, but also all together, you're actually making something that is more than a sum of its parts. By the way, this expression is also by Aristotle. And then the third one is pathos, emotion. Just make sure when you start your pitch, probably when you start your pitch is the easiest, is to come up with some, what we call in English poster child. You have to come to a very good example and concrete example, and incarnate an example that can be incarnated by embodied by someone. I'm quoting John Zimmer. I just watched the video before. I'm just repeating what he says. Mother Teresa was really active I think in Indian slums. She would say, if you present all the misery of the world, no one is going to feel that they can do something about it. But if you can showcase one person, let's say one kid or one mother, one specific person that people can relate to directly on a personal basis, that's where you're actually going to trigger empathy and attachment, a sense of bonding. So let's say if your problem is about some kind of development in a urban area where there are some problems for kids, for instance, I think one good way to actually get to have people connected with your project is actually to feature one specific problem of one specific child in this urban area. That would be amazing. And then people, they feel connected, and these emotions that you can carry them as a kind of a goodwill for the rest of your pitch session. And that's great, because otherwise maybe your project is going to remain I would say synthetic and too technical, technocratic. You don't want to do that. You want just to have people be emotionally moved by what you want to talk about. So I think I don't have four more minutes, and at this stage, I just want to maybe to shut up and to open to questions. Is there anything any question I can answer at this stage? Is there some specific fear you have for tomorrow's pitch session? I mean, don't put too much pressure on yourself for that. But I mean, it's a hackathon. We should have fun. But is there any question I can answer at this stage? You're scaring me. I'm not an. Go ahead.
I can go for a question. So yeah, it's more a suggestion, a request. So do you think that would be better to follow a storytelling approach during the 5 minutes presentation? Because you mentioned an important aspect, which is sharing the emotions and getting the emotions from the audience, or we should more follow let's say a business approach, professional presentation showing the benefit and of the implementation of the project?
Excellent question. My view is the following. You know what I told you at the beginning, which are the 3 objectives of a pitch: stimulate interest, build trust, and start a conversation. You don't want to sell, you don't want to raise money when you are pitching for in 5 minutes. No one is going to give you 100K after 5 minutes pitching, So for me, I think what I really love when there's this is the kind of presentation I really love. You get to have to find your concrete or your persona, that can be, let's say, this child in a urban area, and then you develop your solution, and then actually, as you explained, all your solution is actually working. You actually show, oh, this person is going to directly benefit from your tool. So you say, this kid is 15 years old, has a problem, and you show the problem. You show the kind of, it can be I mean, I don't want to say misery, but you can just see, here's the problem of this person. It can be, earning more money to pay for education. It can be doing this to support her or his family, whatever. That's the problem that this person is facing. And then you come up, let's say you develop an application. That's something quite popular in a hackathon. And then you say, well, actually, our value proposition is to solve this problem, to recognize the problem of this child, of this teenager. And so first, recognizing the problem. So it means that as an entrepreneur, you are showing empathy to the teenager in question. And then you say, well, here's the problem. Here's the way we intend to solve this problem. And that's our value proposition. And then you can just come up and say, oh, but with this application, this teenager is going to be capable of doing this and this and this. And then it's really, it's almost as if you hired an ambassador for your application or for your solution. And that's great. It can be actually, I've seen some of my students actually develop the same storyline, but with a person who doesn't exist. So we just create an avatar, which was like the avatar that was realistic, of course, but it would be someone that actually they would imagine. They would not have like a real person, but it would be someone that is a typical person you would find in some situation, and then actually develop the story like this. And then in the end, oh, my avatar, my person that I imagine actually is going to be helped this way or this way. And that's great, because actually you always connect your solution to the problem of the person. And this person can be real, but it can be also a person that is realistic, I would say, but not real. So that's I hope it answers your question. So in a sense, when people understand the use case, they understand the pertinence of your solution, then making business, like marketing or fundraising or making revenue, is something totally secondary. I used to live in the Silicon Valley for 3 years and a half in Palo Alto, and there are two things I never heard about when I was in the Silicon Valley. Never heard. Intellectual property, never heard of this topic, and business plan was never something on the table. When you have, what is important is the use case. So how do you actually make people understand that what you are doing is so important for making the situation of millions of kids or thousands of kids in an area or on a continent? This is something that just makes totally sense. Then money is something really secondary. In the Silicon Valley, it's kind of the same. You develop an app. What counts at first is the number of users you have, and then finding a way to make money is something that is going to come up in a way or another in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. No, I think that definitely we will add the perspective of a child, because that's also our main target. Actually, the project is for all the citizens, but the idea is to start to bring them as main targets. So definitely that's a good point. And on the finance aspect, business aspect, let's say the intention or the idea, it's more just explain how this is going to be possible to make it in partnership with some specific stakeholders. In that sense, not showing the fundraising. Yeah, that's what I just want to say.
I'm a bit split with partnerships. I mean, you have to really have to have a strong case. I mean, it's important in the end. The use case doesn't necessarily leverage a partnership. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, in the end, if you show your application or you show your solution, this is your product. And then actually, if you need your product to actually grow through partnerships or by making business partnerships. I mean, at first, people, it's not really essential. I mean, if you say, oh, for this project, we are going to partner with IBM, it's, of course, it's name dropping. It might feel important at this stage, but is it really essential? I mean, in the end, people at the first stage, they don't care much about what is going on under the hood. What they want is to get a message delivered on what is really the substance of the experience or the service that you're going to deliver. And whether then you contract with IBM or with Oracle or with Microsoft or with the United Nations, fair enough. This is just this is business arrangements that you can always sort out later. But then you can also go the contrary, because here the hackathon is also being organized with UN Habitat and UNITAR. You can say if there's actually something strong coming out like this, that actually if UNITAR or UN Habitat, they say, oh, this project is going to be useful in this way, and we want to do partnership, and there's a good reason to think that UN Habitat can help leverage the market that you want to address. I mean, of course, mentioning that you want to do a partnership with a UN agency is always something that is going to increase your goodwill. So it's up to you to decide how strategic and always important for your project to actually say who are the people you want to work with the risk that actually people say, well, that's actually in the end an IBM project. Why should these young entrepreneurs care? What are they providing actually as value added when they are working with IBM? So it's up to you to really make your choice. I'm not saying you should not mention partnerships, but just be careful, because it can actually spoil your ownership on the project. There was a question on the chat, but I'm thinking, so I'm repeating by Enas, right? That's the right way. I am thinking of ordering of the ideas. What do you think about it? What part is the most of what we have to concentrate on during our presentation? Can you just tell me already the question, because I'm not sure I understand it. Hello?
Unless you can unmute yourself if you hear us, and just rephrase your question in the chat.
I think
yes.
Oh, there you go. There you are.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Again, what I'm thinking of the presentation, let's say it's up of, I guess, 8 slides. So we have to put the challenges and all of these together. What is the most part that we have to concentrate on convincing the audience about? Are we going to concentrate on our project or the challenges or the benefits? According to the time, I guess 5 minutes, it's like, I don't know, it's short time for convincing the audience about our project. How do you think about it?
My view is that you never waste time in spending time setting the stage. So explaining why something is important, why maybe coming up with this example, these concrete examples that can take people emotionally and actually can re-bring your case. So very often when you have a pitch session, people rush into explaining the solution to the problem, but they don't spend enough time explaining the problem and motivating why they've been so much involved, and so why they chose to solve this problem. What is so important about this? And very often, I mean, when I present some slides, I maybe, I mean, it depends on the time we have, but it can be really up to 1/3 of your time could be used, even up to 50% could be really used to make your case. Because once people are convinced that your case is legitimate and relevant, then actually selling them the solution is something that is really is so much easier. While if you don't spend enough time to actually motivate your case, then people are going to have a very hard time to be convinced about whatever brilliant solution you are cooking up. You know, it's related to this curse of knowledge. You want to have people brought to speed on your topic, and you want to bring them up to speed gently, in a way that is enticing, in a way that is also relevant. So it should be stimulating. It should be, I mean, it can start strongly emotionally, then it can become more logical. So you gather the attention with emotions, then you turn these emotions into some kind of a logical development of the problem that you are facing, and you have to show that your problem is outstanding and original. That is the way you see the problem is specific, is original compared to, you know, there are plenty of other people who are probably trying to solve the same problem, but your perspective makes the difference. And then once actually you made a point about why your perspective is original and can bring a difference compared to all the others that are all the other perspectives and views on the problem that other, let's say, competitors or other people in the world have, then you can really say, then it gets to be easy to explain what is your solution. I'm just so I'm going to read Lorina's. If I understand well, you advise us to not present our sustainable business model. One slide maximum at the end. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you can just say it. I mean, you can just say this is going to be not for profit. This is going to be impact entrepreneurship. We want to make profit, and we have a reason for that. So you might want to decide to explain very quickly what kind of business you want to build. For me, that's important for the SDGs. People want to know whether they are investing in a for-profit, in a not-for-profit, in a, you know, what kind of investment you are proposing to people. So that's key, but it's one sentence. You probably even don't need a slide there. Okay, I don't know how much more time I have, Aphrodite. I think you are going to have to kick me out for the next session, right, soon.
Yes, if we don't have any more urgent questions, but thank you so much, Thomas, for this presentation and explanation of the pitch and what are the important things to keep there, especially for the session tomorrow, but also for the future and your future projects, which I hope that you continue. So just to let you know that we will be sharing again with you the video, but also other material like the presentation John Zimmer made for the pitch, so that you have everything there. And we would like to invite you, Thomas, of course, if you want, you can stay. If not, this is fine. But tomorrow, we'd like to invite you, if you're available, to the pitch, final pitch session tomorrow at 2 p.m. If I'm not mistaken, Christina, Ugo, and Jacqueline.
2 and 4, 2 hours.
Yes, to hear the projects and give your feedback if you wish.
Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm not entirely sure I can make it tomorrow, but I encourage you. I mean, I'm with you for your pitch session. And again, I mean, spend these 17 minutes if you can listening to John Zimmer. Maybe tomorrow morning when you prepare the pitches, maybe one person of the group just watch the video. He has explained that so much better than me, and it can be like a line. I mean, a final recall of what I say today for you to when you prepare your pitch.
Great, thank you so much, Thomas.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for your attention. Good luck for the final 24 hours, and see you soon.
Bye, Thomas.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Over to you, Christina, Ugo, and Jacqueline for our next part of the workshop.
Yes, we should continue with the presentation of how to build policy, how to develop policies. with our UN expert, which is Grace Gitiri, and I would like to give to Grace the opportunity to share the screen.
Thank you so much for having me today. And my name is Grace Gitiri. I'm not a policy expert, but I work at the policy and legislation governance section. Yes, I'm trying to share.
Did it work?
Habitat. Can you see my screen?
Yes, great.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. So, of course, yeah, I work at the policy, legislation, and governance section. So, and under these, some of the issues that you will be discussing or that you will be presenting as part of your project is still under our section. That is as relates to urban rural linkages and food. So I tried to combine all these aspects together, and I'm hoping that it will be helpful and insightful and will assist you even for these projects that you'll be developing. So basically, I'll just, I know some of these things maybe you've researched and you have an understanding. You've maybe been researching and having such details, but I'll just go through some of these things quickly. And maybe what I'll do, I'll introduce the urban rural linkages concept from UN Habitat concept perspective, the urban rural linkages guiding principles by UN Habitat. I'll also look at what the global agendas. I realized that even in the agenda, this was captured. That is the Sustainable Development Goals. But I'll give maybe other additional ones probably that you could refer to that could also assist in developing policy. And also I'll go deeper to one tool that we have developed at UN Habitat, which is to support member states to integrate urban rural linkages in urban policy. And I believe maybe you could get some insights from this. So when you're talking about urban rural linkages, of course, food is coming up from most of you, but we are all aware, or we know that it's beyond just food. There are many activities that happen between urban and rural areas, and all these vary from economic, social, and even environmental perspective. So when we're looking at these this relationship, and as a result of this discussion that started way back in 2015, we were able to launch the guiding principles of urban rural linkages. This process took like 5 years, involved several stakeholders from different organizations, and some of the principles that were developed, such that even as you'll be developing your project, maybe some of these principles could be relevant in the context, depending on the direction that you want your project to be. So they range from issues to do with locally grounded interventions. You have to ensure that probably the projects or the propositions that you're making are relevant in particular in a local context. Integrated governance is something else, and the other principle, issues to do with financial inclusivity, human rights, do no harm, and provide social protection. Basically, these are compilation of principles that are brought together by different stakeholders working in the urban-rural continuum context. So you realize that they range or they cover almost all relevant issues or relevant context. But to implement these principles, it was agreed upon several entry points to enable the implementation of these principles. So these entry points are categorized into two. The first part, which is comprised of 5 entry points, entails creating an enabling environment to strengthen urban rural linkages, which range from governance, integrated planning, empowering people, data, and all that. So the other set, or the other part, was specifically on sectoral and thematic entry points. And of course, for you, I believe I've heard majority are talking about food. And yeah, food is the third last one. And from the perspective of these initiative, we were talking about integrated approaches to food security, nutrition, and public health. But in all this discussion and in all this deliberation, it was, of course, realized that all these entry points and all these, even these areas of creating enabling environments are all interlinked when you're talking about urban-rural linkages. So even as you're talking about food, it is important to consider other relevant sectors. So I say that I put this just to show you. So this from the guiding principles and looking and saying and showing that the principles, the entry points that we have identified, the 11 entry points, are related to all the 17 goals. So even as you'll be maybe making propositions, it is important probably it would maybe assist you in a way when looking at policy options that all the 17 goals are relevant. And of course, this one just relates to the UN Habitat Strategic Plan. I don't know if that would interest you. That is concerning the urban-rural linkages, guiding principles and relevance to the SDGs. I chose to put this, maybe some of you have had a look at this. It is by FAO and WHO, which is on the linkage between the food and sustainable development goals, just showing that, again, all the goals are relevant to the food system and nutrition. Again, these I'm not very sure it's relevant, again, because it's the link between the UN Habitat Strategic Plan and the food and nutrition. So the other aspect is the new urban agenda. Out of the many paragraphs, we have been able to identify over 17 paragraphs that address the aspects of urban-rural linkages. And maybe this would also be really helpful in identifying possible policy options, because in the new urban agenda, the member states agreed to do this, and all these paragraphs gives you an idea of some of the things that they agreed to do that are related to urban-rural linkages. And these ones are specific to food. These ones, we extracted them, they are related to food and nutrition. Okay, so when we're talking about now issues to do with food in the urban and rural context, it is important to go beyond agriculture, not just about food production, and also it is important to consider other activities that relate to food in the urban-rural continuum. We'll be seeing in another slide what are some of these activities. The other aspect is to consider the aspect of multi-level governance system, because urban and rural areas, as earlier indicated, do not exist in isolation. And also maybe some important aspects maybe to consider in making policy options or policy proposals is issues to do with data. Data is really key for even for evidence-based policies or even the implementation of the policy. And of course, as I had mentioned earlier, when you're talking about food, it is important to link with other sectors because it does not exist in isolation, and various other sectors and systems support the food system itself. So as I mentioned, these are the activities, the various activities and actors that are in the urban-rural context that all operate in the food system or in the food chain. Of course, some of these are known to most of us. So it is important, as we're talking about policy options for food in the urban-rural context, that we don't just look at the farmers, or we don't just look at the probably those selling food that is at the traders level, but also consider the other activities or the other actors in the food chain in the urban-rural context. So from UN Habitat perspective, we have several several works and tools that are ongoing or under development. We do all this in collaboration with FAO. But the one that is completely completed and published is the one on mainstreaming urban-rural linkages in urban policies. And I believe these, I'll give further details about it. Maybe we could check and see if it could help us in making some policy recommendations specifically related to food or some policy options. So here we have the urban-rural linkages guiding principles, as I mentioned. and we have the urban policy, and we have this tool that is important or relevant in integrating urban-rural linkages in national urban policy. So that's just one of the tools that I'll go in detail. As relates to the food system also, we have some other tools that are under development. But anyway, I believe the one that would be of important for now, because it's something that you're doing within the next 24 hours, is this one. So, so now concerning integrating urban-rural linkages in urban policy. Of course, for us, it's a mandate that has been given to UN Habitat, and of course, we are supporting several countries, not just member states, but also stakeholders interested in incorporating or mainstreaming urban-rural linkages, whether it's in urban policy, but also plans, strategies, or whatever. So this tool that I mentioned, at UN Habitat, the policy process is comprised of 5 phases, which range from feasibility, diagnostic, formulation, implementation, and also monitoring and evaluation, which is like a process that is taking place throughout all the phases. So where probably at feasibility, I'm sure this the place where you'll be talking about what's the challenge. Now, like trying to contextualize in your case and in your case in this particular hackathon. So at feasibility, of course, you have to come up with what is the challenge. A diagnostic phase is where you're trying to look at what are the possible options. And of course, now when you'll be making policy options, you're looking at the possible options and making evaluation or checking which one would be the best fit policy proposal when in the context of the projects that you're proposing or you'll be presenting. So the other information may not be so much relevant in our context, but those are again the pillars that we propose when you're talking about when we are supporting in developing policies, which include that it is important to ensure participation. I don't know how this could be captured in your project. It's important to ensure capacity development. It is important to also ensure that we have some quick win projects. So I'm not very sure how this would be relevant in your context. So as we go on, you'll just check what is relevant. This is what I was talking about. This is the mainstreaming process that we basically propose in developing the urban policies as relates to urban-rural linkages. Of course, as I said, you are gathering the information about the challenge. After that, identifying possible or alternative approaches, not just one. Probably it's good to have more than one, and then so that you're able to weigh which one makes more sense in terms of cost-benefit analysis or SWOT analysis or whatever analysis that may be before coming up with specific policy options or propositions. And then it is also important to come up with like an action plan. Now that we have made these policy proposals, how can they be implemented and who should be involved? These are some of the questions to think about. So on the stakeholders, these like the broad like perspective when we're talking about urban policies and the stakeholders that we involve. I believe this varies in different contexts, and some of the ways that we involve them include workshops, urban forums, but anyway, it depends on the context. So again, depending on your project and the direction that you want it to go, then you'll be able to make propositions of some of the stakeholders. Maybe you could be involved in the implementation of the policy proposals that you will make as part of your project. So this tool goes down to give some some recommendations and even some policy excerpts that one could look at. I believe this may not be very relevant maybe for your context, but that's the tool looks at recommendations, but also gives an example of a country urban policy, whether it's at national or subnational context that have incorporated that particular aspect. So again, this is just an example from policy to action. In some context is action to policy. And I believe for you, probably it will be policy to action. So these are some of this. That's why it has to be, they have to be implementable, and that's why an action plan is really key. So these are just, so in the tool, we also have a checklist that gives what to check when you're developing the urban policy process. And also when you're reviewing, probably it's an urban policy document that is ready. But I believe for you, it's very open. It's not a specific document that you'll be making like recommendations for. So that's just a basic overview of how, as UN Habitat, we support member states, but also other stakeholders in integrating or mainstreaming urban rural linkages, but also food or any other lens that we could look at in the concept of urban rural linkages. So these are some of the tools that UN Habitat has developed as regards to this. So I think I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer questions. I hope I was clear enough.
Hi, Githeri, thank you so much for presenting that. I was wondering, could we have access to these slides so that we could use them?
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to share via the chat or I just send to you via email. Let me know.
Maybe we can share it on the chat and then I'll post it on the Slack channel that we all have access to as well. Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
I have one question. Is it possible for people not educated in law studies to try on the policy making for the challenge that we have?
Yeah. You realize that even in the engagements that we are engaged in, and in such context, you're talking about a national urban policy, we ensure that we integrate all sorts of stakeholders who are affected. It doesn't matter whether they are involved or have an understanding of policy making or legislation. Yeah, it is possible, because when you're talking about policy, it affects everybody, or it affects many people, and some of these things or some of the issues that they may raise, they are all relevant. It's only that maybe they may need to be phrased in a manner that fits to policy wording and all that. So I believe, yes, it is okay.
Thank you for encouragement.
Okay,
Well, do we have a question?
James?
Oh yeah, that was gonna be my question. I'm sorry if that was obvious in the presentation, but do we need to cover policy making or suggestions in the pitch? And if so, is there any recommendations, or just like maybe focus on one that we can find and make suggestions on how to improve it?
This is for the UNITAR challenge specifically, right?
Just for the pitch tomorrow, yeah.
Okay. But you're asking me or Grace?
Well, I guess Grace, yeah, in the sense of like, if we have to make a suggestion or for a policy improvement in a pitch, any suggestion on where to start?
Wow. I don't know what to say. Of course, I'm not an expert like Thomas. I was also learning from what he was sharing with us today. But I believe some of the things that I also learned from him that is relevant also for when we're talking about policy. It would be important to integrate or have like policy options that are implementable. And when you're talking about implementable, it is important to include what could be done, who can do, and probably even include some of maybe timeline. This shows the implementability and also even possible stakeholders to implement or to involve. I think that's what I would say. I don't know exactly.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Grace, so much for your presentation again. And if you could share those slides, I think it would be useful for everyone to be able to look at them to prepare for tomorrow.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Ugo. And yeah, I'll be sharing the presentation right away here.
Thank you.
And all the best.
Thank you. And I guess we will start breaking everyone out into the rooms if you are all ready. Yeah.
Yes, everything is set.
Okay.
So just send you to your breakout rooms. Happy hacking. See you soon. Thank you, Sarah. Feel free to join the chat room. Yes, I will send you the invitation to join. Well, like the workshops. And maybe today we can send like all the collected all the material together from the workshops, also from yesterday, so that the participants have them clear. That either very small stuff.
I just shared the document on Slack so everybody has access. I'm going to be honest, I'm very exhausted. I can feel myself like, we're almost there.
Very well.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I think it's Jonas or Aphrodite. Can we stop recording?
I am here just in the background, but
Hi.
see if I can. It's Aphrodite right now is the host, so.
Okay, I can send her a message then.
Maybe ask her again also to make you co-hosts. I see that this assignment got off, so then you can also control it, I believe.
Okay, I'll do that too.
Super. I'll log off for now and then come back. It's what time are you having everybody back on the call? Can you just remind me, Jacqueline?
I think that was the final workshop that we have. So
yeah.
At 5:45, we'll call everyone back in and then have a closing session.
Super. Okay, I'll be in for 5:45. I'll be here.
Okay. Thank you, Jonas. Bye.
Yeah, see you soon.